Welcome back to Real Talk About Feminism, everyone. Happy late Thanksgiving to those who celebrate. We're very thankful for you all. And we're thankful that you're here for another episode with us. We are going to be getting into some anti-feminist views and why they're wrong. Just kidding.
It's funny because I'm a very neutral girly. I was going to say we're just going to talk about them and give our opinions. But you're like, no, they're wrong.
You're like, no.
I don't agree with them, but it's funny.
No, I'm totally kidding, kind of. But yeah, I'm excited. I think this will be a great episode. But before, we're gonna do some chatting like we love.
Yeah. So let's start with our obsessions. My obsession is this new podcast that I discovered. It's called Unruly. And it's sponsored or produced or something or created by the brand Flamingo. The shaving stuff.
Yeah.
And the whole point of it is to talk about taboo things about health or women's issues and stuff. They only have a couple episodes out, but I love it.
I love that. Okay, so you sent me that, but I haven't been in my podcast era.
I know.
So I made note, but then I didn't listen. But now I'm in my podcast era again.
There's 3 episodes and they're 25 minutes. It's doable.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to listen. I love that. I love that concept. Well, my obsession is I just decorated for Christmas and I'll post something on the story, but it's pink and gold themed. It's very subtle. It's just a little area that I decorated, but I got the cutest pink little stockings and
they look really cute.
Yeah. I was obsessed with their little gold disco ball ornaments. And I was I'm obsessed with that. So of course I had to get them. So yeah, I'll be posting, but that's my obsession.
Well, we've also mentioned our Join the Discussion form that we put in all of our show notes. And we're going to share one that somebody submitted about last week's episode, Purity Culture, which you guys really liked.
Yes.
That was a fun episode to record.
Yeah.
This is from B. And they said, I was just watching y'all's video on Purity Culture, and it reminded me of when I was 13 or 14, I would wear leggings to young women's activities. For those who don't know, Young Women's is for girls ages 12 to 17, 18 when you graduate high school in the Mormon Church. I remember my young women leaders had such a huge problem with it, and I never understood why. They'd always pull me aside and be like, we just want to make sure you know what you're wearing can make an impact on the boys, and we know that's probably not your intention, but we need to let them focus on the priesthood and getting close with God and preparing for missions. We can't be distracting them. This went on for about a year until my family moved wards for different reasons. It's so gross to me how, first of all, these grown women are looking at my body and telling me how distracting it was. And second, how me at 13 or 14 trying to understand why and how my body was distracting to the boys when all I wanted to do was hang out with friends and stuff. That's so true.
I feel like that's something we've all experienced.
Seriously. This situation has still affected me to this day. I've since left the church, but I still will put on an outfit and be scared someone will feel uncomfortable with it, or that maybe something will happen to me and it will be my fault because of what I was wearing. Purity culture affects people for life, and I'm so glad y'all are bringing awareness to it. Love y'all. That's a really good real-life example.
That is, because, that's so real. How can you just easily break out of that, even if you leave an organization?
Yeah, it's hard.
Because we're being taught all these things in our fundamental, developmental years. So I feel for her. We feel for her. Oh, sorry. We feel for this person, and we relate. But I love that they submitted something.
Yes, it really is just an open forum. It's anonymous unless you choose to share your name. And let us know what you think about the episodes or topic suggestions or anything.
If you have input like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe we'll read it on an episode. But
yeah.
Thank you, B, for submitting that and sharing your thoughts.
Well, we have a couple updates for you guys. The past 2 weeks were your birthday. Let's be real.
Yeah.
So recap your birthday because it was pretty fun.
So I'll be kind of quick about it. I feel like the whole month of November has actually been my birthday month. But so I was in Virginia for my birthday. I was with Kendrick, and on my actual birthday, we went to I think it's called the Nationals. It's the the hockey team in DC. So we went there and we went with some of his friends and it was really fun. It was like a double date. And so we did that on my actual birthday. We also went out to lunch that day and he got me a cheesecake and like it was really cute. And he was just like treated me really special the whole week. But then on that Friday after my birthday, we went out to like a really nice dinner and that was fun. It was probably one of the fanciest restaurants I've ever been to. I did have an embarrassing moment because I've never been to a restaurant where when they're like, "Oh, do you want a box?" I've had them box it up at the table, but I've never had someone take it away and box it. And so she was like, the waitress was like, "Oh, do you want a box?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Okay, I'll send some boxes." She said, "Send boxes." So then she sends this person, and the person is like, it was like, "Oh, do you want boxes?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, but they're bringing them." And she was like trying to take my food, and I was like, "Oh, no, they're bringing it." Like, I thought she was clearing the plate.
I hate those moments.
And then it was just, I was like, "Oh, never mind." So that was kind of embarrassing. But other than that, it was super fun. And then here we celebrated, you and our friends planned a little surprise theme birthday party for me. And it was so fun. We shared pictures on Instagram, so go check them out. But it was all like themed like 22 Halie's version. And so I just loved it. I thought it was super fun. I was definitely feeling 22. And I had such a fun time. It was the best night.
I'm so glad. It really was a fun night. And we were so glad that you liked it. But we were like, she's in her Taylor Swift era. So
I know.
this is perfect.
I love it. I was obsessed with it. I was like texting some of my friends this morning about it. And I was just like, I was obsessed with the theme. I really felt 22. So
it was really fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
So that's pretty much the close of your birthday month.
Yes. I think it's time to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because your birthday is early enough in the month where, like, when the first hits, you're like, okay, my birthday's next week.
Right.
And then you went and celebrated, and then we celebrated the week after.
The week after, yeah, it's a lot. And now it's like, then we had Thanksgiving.
Right.
It's just a celebration month, honestly.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we're going to get into our feminist highlight for today. Her name is Nzambi Mattee, and she's a Kenyan engineer and environmentalist. She's the founder of the startup Change Makers. Nzambi has created a lightweight and low-cost building material that is made of recycled plastic with sand to make bricks that are stronger than concrete material. She has recently been named a Young Champion of the Earth 2020 Africa winner at the United Nations Environment Program. Mattee, who specialized in material science and worked as an engineer in Kenya's oil industry, was inspired to launch her business after routinely coming across plastic bags strewn across Nairobi streets. She said, quote, "It is absurd that we still have this problem of providing decent shelter, a basic human need. Plastic is a material that is misused and misunderstood. The potential is enormous, but its afterlife can be disastrous." In 2017, she quit her job working as a data analyst and set up a small lab in her mother's backyard. There, she began creating and testing pavers, which are a combination of plastic and sand. She said, "So far, we have recycled 20 metric tons, and we're looking to push that value to 50 by the end of the next financial year."
Wow.
I usually don't share that much about the feminist highlights, but I was so interested in her background and her reasoning for starting this.
Mm-hmm.
And we need more of that. There's a huge plastic pollution problem.
Yeah, I like how she said that the potential for plastic is enormous, but we're not using it right.
No.
Like, once we are done with a plastic bag, we see plastic bags floating around all the time. I mean, it's a Katy Perry song. So, like, I really like how she put that because it's like, oh, we talk about recycling all the time, but we're not actually thinking of, like, okay, how can we harness in different ways than we normally do.
She's actually doing something about it.
Right. Like, we recycle plastic all the time for like water bottles and all that stuff, but what about to build things?
Right.
I love that. I love the environmentalist.
I know. I'm so interested in it.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break to talk about our sponsor, BetterHelp.
It's 2023 and it's time to really prioritize our mental health this year. No matter where you are in life, everyone can benefit from therapy. Whether you need to work through trauma or just need a safe person to talk to, BetterHelp is here for you.
BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy service. Get matched with a professional licensed therapist in your state who you can trust.
BetterHelp has options to communicate with your therapist via chat, email, or video, and you can message them at any time to get help.
BetterHelp is giving our listeners 10% off if you sign up using the link in our show notes.
If you're struggling with depression, anxiety, relationships, trauma, grief, or just need someone to talk to, try BetterHelp today by clicking the link in our show notes or go to betterhelp.com/RTAFpod to get 10% off today. Okay, guys, we're getting into the anti-feminist beliefs.
Yes, we are.
So I just started fresh and I Googled anti-feminist beliefs. I came to a Quora thread and I pulled out 6 different posts that were interesting to me.
Okay.
So we're going to go through, I'm going to read them. Some of them are kind of long, but bear with me because all the information is very important. And then we're going to talk about our opinions and why we as feminists disagree with what they're saying.
We're debating.
We're debating the anti-feminist beliefs. So one thing before I get into what other people said is something that I want to say and just reiterate for any new listeners is that feminism is human rights.
Yeah.
Feminism campaigns for human rights. And I think that's where people get stuck because the connotation that feminism has and the word feminist. So I want to highlight that. A lot of people just think it's women complaining about issues that people don't see are important, but that's really not what it is. There's a lot of misconceptions, and we're going to highlight those throughout the episode.
I'm already I was coming up with counter arguments.
I can literally see in your eyes how you're like, I'm ready for this.
I'm ready for this. Okay, first one.
Okay. Well, I also want to say one other thing. So there actually is an anti-feminism movement, which we've mentioned before, but it is an actual group. It's an actual movement. One definition of anti-feminism is the counter-movement of thought and action that is opposed to feminism. Its thematic range is as extensive as the fields of feminism's intervention and has evolved over time to oppose the rights gradually won by women. I think that's incredibly wrong, but
I do too.
That's a definition. Another one, someone who does not believe in the social or economic or political equality of men and women. If you're an anti-feminist, you belong...
Go back to the 1800s.
Literally, you are not in this time. Get with it.
Yeah. That's insane.
Right. So, in my opinion, you don't have to be a feminist, but don't be an anti-feminist.
Right. I'm someone be bold and put anti-feminist in your profile.
Yeah, do it.
Come on. Let's see who doesn't want those rights for women. No, but seriously, I agree with you. You don't have to label yourself as a feminist, even though it's just human rights. But yeah, you don't have to be outright against it.
No.
Come on.
According to ChatGPT, some common anti-feminist beliefs include the belief that feminism is unnecessary because women already have equal rights and opportunities as men, the belief that feminism is harmful to men and society, the belief that feminism is a form of reverse discrimination against men, the belief that feminism is a form of extremism or radicalism, the belief that gender is not a social construct and that femininity and masculinity are biologically determined. So we're going to get into the arguments now, into what these people said. I will post the link to the thread in the show notes, so you can go find these. You can go read more comments, dig a little deeper. It's very easy to go down a rabbit hole. I want to also mention, I'm not going to say anything else besides this. All of these except the last one were posted by men.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yep. So here we go. And they identified themselves as men. I wasn't assuming. Okay. Post number 1. I feel like you're going to go off. Okay. I wouldn't call myself an anti-feminist, but I am unabashedly not a supporter of fourth wave feminism. First and second wave feminism was all about achieving true equal rights for women. I champion that. But third and especially fourth wave feminism are radicalized, which I do not support one bit. Today, feminism is all about extreme double standards. Why are men still serving longer prison sentences than women for committing the very same crimes? Why aren't women who file false rape charges immediately charged with a crime themselves when caught in the act of lying and abusing the legal system? Why do men only go to jail for assaulting a woman, But when a woman assaults a man, the police laugh it off as a joke and do nothing. I believe in equality. I believe both qualified men and women should get the same pay for the same job well done. On a darker note, I believe men and women should both be equally punished when convicted of a similar crime. If a man can be punished or jailed for assault, vandalism, etc., then a woman who commits an equally grave crime should endure the very same. Feminism today is not about equality, it's about granting women special privileges. I want to hear your initial thoughts on this. There was kind of a lot, and if you want me to reread, I can.
Well, the main thing I'm thinking is all of those things that you're saying, like, are great, but we don't live in a perfect world. So at the end of the day, there are inequalities.
Right. My initial thought was this person felt very strongly about the legal system and its treatment towards women. And my point to that is pretty much every system that has been established in this country was based on the patriarchy. Okay. So what this person said, why aren't women who file false rape charges immediately charged with a crime themselves when caught in the act of lying? Traditionally, I believe most women do not lie about this.
It's actually like
it's very
studied.
Rare.
It's studied that only like it's like a very tiny percentage. It's like less than 5% of all reported rapes or sexual assaults are true or are lies.
Yeah, and the men who are like, well, I'm just scared of being blamed for something. Then be a decent, normal person.
Yeah, if you have to question if you're scared of being blamed for something, then you need to reevaluate other things in your life.
Exactly.
Because no one is going to, this is an obvious takeaway for me, so this is why I didn't get into it, but like, no one is going to go through the process, very, very rarely is going to go through the process of reporting things.
A difficult, traumatic process.
Yeah, a difficult, traumatic process and just lie about it. Because also, if you're going to report something, you know that they're going to try and collect evidence.
Right.
So, like, if there's no evidence, which, again, that's why sexual crimes are hard to charge. But, like, there's so many things about that that's like, no, women aren't going to just lie.
Right. And I'm like, that's your main point for why you're not a feminist or why you don't support feminism. I don't care if you label yourself as that. But your main reason is the legal system?
Yeah. I'm just like, to me, those just seem like excuses that it seems like you've just been told all your life that feminism is bad. And that's what we hear in society a lot. And it seems like to this person, you just never broke free from and started thinking on your own, like, what is feminism actually? Because all the examples listed in there are the classic examples that everyone who argues against feminism say. And it's not even accurate.
It's not. My other thing was this he, because he identified himself as he brought up, I believe both qualified men and women should get the same pay for the same job well done.
You're saying that
you're literally agreeing that as a man there's a pay gap.
Right.
So not quite sure what your point is there.
Yeah.
But he just randomly threw that in and then kept talking about the legal system. So I just thought that one was very interesting because I also agree in equality. Mm-hmm. Women should not get special privileges, but a big part of our platform is that women have been unequal and seen as unequal in many, many ways since the beginning of time for multiple different reasons. And it's not about women getting special privileges. It's about women being seen as equal to men.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's kind of like what I was getting at with like, okay, you believe that men and women should be paid equally for a job well done. Yeah, that's what we agree to. Mm-hmm. But you're merely pointing out what a perfect world would look like and not recognizing, this would be a perfect world, but that's not the case right now.
Right.
It's like, what's the point in just saying, I think that men and women should get paid equal?
Yeah, everyone should.
Everyone should. And it doesn't like, that's not an actual, like, reason to believe in something, because you're just stating like, something that would be
Ideal.
you
Yeah.
know? It's like, okay, well, then maybe recognize, I believe men and women should get paid equally, but they're not right now,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Like, okay.
The pay gap is closing slowly, right?
Mhm.
Like, over time, if you look at data,
Yeah.
but it still exists.
Yeah. Because we look at, like, the structures of, like, maternity leave, and I think a lot of people forget that it's not all intentional. It's just the systems that we have set up,
Right.
and how women will take more maternity leave than dads, if they even do, or than men, if they even do. So yeah, there's more factors than just, oh yeah, men and women should get paid equal.
Right.
Like, duh.
Okay, post number 2. There are 3 waves of feminism. There's first wave feminism, which fought for women's property and legal rights. Classic feminism, which is the feminism of the 50s and 90s that most people support today, that fought for voting rights, equal pay, etc. And then there's today's feminism, which is built on lies such as the wage gap, built on misandry. Don't know what that is. Modern feminism is a cancerous ideology that calls anything in the first world sexist towards women. I support classic feminism. I'd prefer to call it humanitarian, though.
Ew, it's like
I
the
freaking hate this.
egalitarianism in that one episode.
Humanitarians generally work to improve the quality of life for all humans, but I certainly oppose the modern feminist movement. I'm afraid that modern feminism is about denouncing all things male. I need to stop for a minute. And at the same time playing the victim. What does feminist mean now? Grow armpit hair, free titties, and some stupid causes just to be on TV or newspapers, or to prove that she has a voice? I think she can prove it by raising a good generation of people, because she should focus on how to make her kids become what she imagines people should be, instead of spreading her boobs and vagina around the world and fighting for stupid things and try to make them normal. So, you're absolutely wrong. That's what I'm going to say to this, because that is the misconception about feminism. Grow armpit hair, free titties, and some stupid cause just to be on TV. That is so misogynistic.
And, like, first off, we both shave our armpits. Like,
it also doesn't matter. That's not what feminism is.
No, it doesn't matter. But it's like the generalization of, they always will go back to the stereotypical
and the burning bras,
raging feminist that hates, raging man hating feminist.
Yep.
And that's so outdated. Yeah, there are people out there like that
who are radical.
Yeah, and that's them. But the majority of the feminist movement is not that at all.
It's the biggest misconception. You brought up such a good point.
Yeah, it's like, everyone has to understand that there is, like, a radical version of, like, pretty much every group out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like, if I was like, let's say this person was like a really devout Christian man who said this, I could bring up the radical Christian people who are crazy, but I'm not doing that, because I don't feel the need to put down your cause. Like, what does it do? You know, like, it's just putting it down, and it's not doing anything other than that. It's not fighting for your side, because you're not actually making any valid points.
No, there's no points in here.
No.
I really hate the general tone and attitude this man has towards women in general. When he said, focus on raising a good generation. Hello, that's not our only purpose.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Where does the man come in?
Yeah, I was like, what about
in a heteronormative relationship?
Yeah.
Hello, where's your part in this, sir?
Yeah.
Spreading her boobs and vagina around the world, that's such a stereotype, and that's so objectifying.
It is.
I hated every part of that.
Well, that is objectifying for sure. Obviously, everyone can have their opinions, but I hate, like, the breaking down the waves of feminism, because you know that he thought he ate with that.
He really thought he ate.
And I'm like, okay, like,
thanks for the lesson. We already knew.
Yeah, we already knew that. Everyone knows, oh, feminism, quote, used to be for a cause when they were actually voting for voting rights, or when it was actually applicable, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's not what it is.
It's not what it is. And I also hate the whole humanitarian egalitarian thing. Like, don't tell me what I am.
I know. I'm like, we've heard that so many times.
So many times.
Like, literally, sometimes it'll randomly play in my head when that guy was like, actually, you're an egalitarianist. You're not a feminist. And I was like, excuse me?
I hate it.
Yeah.
Post number 3. A couple weeks ago, I was joking in class. Here we go. I was talking to a group of 3 girls because I'm such a playa. Literally wrote that. And I was joking about a bunch of things. Like I've said before, as long as it will make people laugh, I'll say just about anything.
Ew.
I don't give a rat's ass about jokes being offensive. So we were sitting there talking, and I'm making them laugh pretty hard. Everything we talk about, I crack a few jokes. They're loving it.
Ew!
Eventually, someone says something about feminism, and of course I sink my teeth into that. I say a few ... derogatory but hilarious things about feminism. It's giving Matt Rife.
No, it is.
I got lots of laughs, and the conversation moved on to something else. That was it. Maybe 30 seconds of obvious joking about feminism. Then I continued to joke about other random stuff. I was seriously on point with my humor that day. Then after school, I got a text from this girl that was in the class too. She wasn't part of the group, but I'd overheard the whole thing. This chick is a self-professed feminist. Extremely self-professed. She talks about it a ton. Also, her sense of humor doesn't really appreciate the types of jokes I tell. So she texts me and says, I didn't like the things you said earlier about feminism. They were misogynistic and disgusting. Great, here we go. Keep in mind, I told these jokes to a group of exclusively girls. They were all totally fine with it. They thought it was hilarious. So the chick calls me misogynistic and disgusting and proceeds to, quote, debate me on modern feminism for almost 30 minutes. She called me every name under the sun, didn't give a shit about anything I said, and anytime I made a good point, she discredited it by calling it mansplaining. Anyways, I tried my hardest to keep the conversation respectful with this feminist chick, but eventually I was really freaking sick of it. I basically told her that I don't really give a shit about what she was saying and that I have no opinion whatsoever. She insulted me a few more times and I stopped responding. That there was my first experience with modern feminism. Unsurprisingly, it didn't appeal to me. Now am I a feminist by definition? Sure. I was born in the early 2000s. Women have been considered equal to men basically my entire life. I was raised in a society with equality. The whole men and women are equal thing made sure sense to me. I agree with that. But the whole modern man-hating victim card playing, patriarchy blaming shit, no. F that. I don't call myself a feminist and I don't call myself an anti-feminist. Honestly, almost never crosses my mind. It's not a topic of interest or concern for me. I avoid talking about it with people whenever I can. I've developed a foolproof situation to avoid it.
Okay, then why are you putting in your 2 cents if you don't care?
Yep. Initial thoughts.
First off, the way he was talking in that, I was like, okay, when she was, quote, discrediting you by saying you were mansplaining, the way you were speaking, you probably were.
Yeah,
And
I was thinking the same thing.
That's just, a generalization, but you can't just say, oh, well, I was talking to women, so it was fine. They laughed. That's like if, like, you made a racist joke and you were like, oh, I was talking to this specific group of people. They thought it was fine. Like,
doesn't make it okay.
It doesn't make it okay just because you're getting laughs. Also, like, I'm just like, everything was so doing it for the bit with him. And I'm like, why are you putting in just the fact that you're talking for so long about how funny you were when you're trying to give your opinion on feminism? Like, it just shows that you aren't even qualified to speak about it because you've never had any experiences.
There was no substance to it.
No.
And I will add how you brought up he was talking to women and they were all laughing. How often are we told as women to be polite?
True.
Especially with men.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. That doesn't give you any credit to make misogynistic, derogatory jokes to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
That girl that texted you,
good for her.
She definitely wasn't the only one that had feelings about it.
Yeah, I'm like, there's a lot of people that laugh when they're uncomfortable as well.
I do as well.
Yeah, like, okay, when we were at 7-Eleven the other day, and that guy, just the cash register person, just kept wanting to talk to us about how we looked so much alike and we were sisters, but he always, like, is flirty and weird. And so we were both just like, hi, yeah, just trying to get out of there.
Yep.
He could have been like, oh, they thought it was funny, they liked it. He probably did think that, but it's like, no, lots of people laugh when they're uncomfortable. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean they were agreeing or thought it was funny.
That's a good example.
Yeah, because that just happened, like, yesterday.
Literally yesterday. I just didn't like how he was arguing against feminism, but again, he didn't make any valid points. He told a story,
And people
raved
laughed.
about himself being funny, and then got mad because somebody stood up for what she believed in and was like, hey, this made me uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't care because he's misogynistic. I'm sorry. Like, the way you're talking, like, this feminist chick. I hate the word chick, first off.
Same.
I think that's, especially coming from a man, I don't like that.
I know.
So I really think this brings up a lot of misconceptions about, like we mentioned in the beginning, the man-hating feminists. I highly doubt this situation played out like he said it did.
Right.
Highly doubt it.
Right. I'm sure that she brought up her points and then they were having a debate about it. But like I doubt that she was like just being a bitch. Like he made it sound like she was.
Because that's what he made it sound like.
Yeah. Like, and that was my first experience with modern feminism. Like, really?
Yeah.
No. That's
this is what I literally hate about like these men that will tell these stories and like have these attitudes about feminism. They can't do no wrong. Everything that is an argument against what they're saying, I'm mansplaining apparently.
mm-hmm.
I'm just a misogynist. Well, yeah, you are.
There's also the classic, like, a misogynistic man will always point out, oh, well, she's just being dramatic because she's a girl. She's just being emotional. I know I'm right. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that's what he did necessarily, but it's like there's always the classic things that misogynistic men use to justify their behavior. I'm like, how does that make any sense to you?
It doesn't.
But yeah, no, that's very clearly wrong.
Yeah.
And that's not just about feminism. It's like about anything in general.
Like just be a nice person.
Yeah.
The main point with that one though was like, just because these group of girls were laughing at your jokes does not mean anything.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't.
It's 2023. We don't make jokes about stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's why Matt Rife is being canceled.
I know.
Did you watch the clip?
No, but I will say
I was appalled.
I will say I've never liked him. And I said to Kendrick the other day, I was like, there's so much hype about Matt Rife. Number one, everyone hypes him up for being attractive.
He's not even attractive.
I don't think he's attractive.
I've never once thought he was attractive.
I don't. But I'm like, the other day I was like, oh, this Netflix special, maybe I should just watch it because I don't get the hype about him, and maybe I'm just not giving him a fair shot. And then he was like, no, he's honestly, like, he's not all that, trust me. Like, he was like, he's not funny. And then this morning when I was getting ready for the day, I'm on TikTok and I see all this stuff about him, and I was like, I knew it.
Yep. He gives like retired frat bro. Because like I never saw the actual clip. I just saw people stitching stuff and like people talking about it. And then this morning before work, I went to it because, you know, in the search, it's like the Matt Rife clip, whatever. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? That's not funny.
I need to watch it after.
He made a domestic violence joke and then a joke about women being in the kitchen.
I heard about the domestic violence one. It was something like, can you not be distracted? Or like
don't come to work with a black eye.
Oh yeah. Like
that's when he was like, maybe you should be in the kitchen. Yeah. It was slimy, icky vibes. I didn't like it.
You know, I just don't really love stand-up comedy in general.
I don't either. It's not my thing.
Yeah, but I'm like, okay, that's ridiculous. But that is giving Matt Rife. It's like, well, they laughed. They thought it was funny.
Yeah. Like, so? They're being filmed in an audience.
Right. Like, okay.
Okay, post number 4. Feminism has, in my view, 2 massive problems. The first problem of feminism is the name itself. These people think they ate. This person also included hyperlinks and footnotes. Okay, it's not that serious.
This is what I'm like, what if you're so desperate to prove a cause wrong, then they must be doing something right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. While I understand the historical reasons for that name, it has become problematic in the same way that, for example, calling your sports team the Redskins. At some point, the name starts dragging you back. There is a word for, quote, strive for equal treatment of all people regardless of gender, and feminism is not it. The correct term is egalitarianism.
No.
From French égal, meaning equal. Quote from Wikipedia. The term, I'm not reading that.
Yeah.
You guys can look it up. The second problem of feminism is that there is no formal admission process. There are no requirements imposed on who can call themselves a feminist, and there apparently are no conditions under which someone could be expelled from feminism.
Because it's not a cult.
Right. There's more. Why is number 1, the flawed label, a problem? Because the experience of the last 100 years shows that feminists will fight for equal rights almost exclusively when the shorter end of the stick is held by women. Yeah. What's worse, as soon as it turns out that in some area men have it worse, not only will feminists refuse to help men improve their situation, but in some cases, feminists will fight tooth and nail against any and every effort to fix the inequality. As an example, a male victim of domestic violence who used to be terrorized by his wife wanted to establish a shelter for male victims of domestic abuse. You'd think that would not be controversial, but feminists went berserk on him, doing everything in their power to sabotage the effort and to prevent such shelter from being opened. To this day, despite men being roughly 44% of victims of domestic abuse, while women are 55%, which means the ratio between men and women as victims is 4 to 5. I don't believe that. There is a massive disparity in the number of available shelters, to the tune of 1,000 shelters for women against 1 shelter for men. Those statistics, I don't believe are accurate. I also want to look up if that shelter story actually happened, because I find that highly unbelievable.
Yeah.
That a man trying to establish a DV shelter, because men are victims of domestic violence. They can be. It's not just women. It's disproportionately women who are victims.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why there's so many women's shelters.
Yeah. I feel like my only thoughts were him explaining these situations. They're in his words.
Right.
So
he didn't leave sources or anything.
Yeah. So it's not credible.
I'm going to keep going. Incidents like this are often enough for ordinary people to come to the conclusion that feminists have a hidden agenda, and that instead of let's be equal, y'all, their plan is let's give women all the advantages and none of the responsibilities, or something similar. Imagine if instead of being called feminists, the people who wanted equal rights for all called themselves egalitarians. Suddenly, women get beaten by husbands, let's do something about it, becomes, hang on, what do the statistics actually say? Can we trust the police reports? What happens when a man calls the cops that his wife is beating him? Do they investigate? Do prosecutors prosecute abusive women? Shouldn't we focus on the problem of domestic violence in general rather than gendering it? So this person went from don't call yourself feminist to a whole domestic violence thing.
Yeah.
I also have noticed that a lot of men who argue against feminism have the same arguments of, oh, I feel oppressed because I'm a man and I'm not used to it. That's basically what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're bringing up any issue that maybe they've experienced, which I hope this person hasn't experienced domestic violence. That would make me sad. But they're bringing up, like, the same issues because they're obviously, like, not doing research on anything.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, it's always just the classic arguments that have been around for a very long time. And when those arguments are brought up without any new information, it's just not valid or credible because it doesn't apply.
It really doesn't. I'm like, give me something that says feminism is harmful. This isn't harmful to men.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I'm going to continue with this post. Why is number 2, the lack of formal requirements for becoming a feminist, a problem? Feminists ostensibly want to help make the world a better place. A lot of people act in a capacity where they try to make the world a better place. Teachers educate us, doctors treat our health problems, architects design comfortable spaces for us to live in, bus drivers take us to distant places, airline pilots take us to even more distant places. But all those people share qualification. Qualification to hold such jobs consists of at least 3 components: formal education or training, regular/frequent inspection of ongoing fitness for the job, criteria for revocation of the qualification. You show up drunk to work and you're not only fired, but your license is taken away. Apparently, all it takes to become a feminist is for you to proclaim, I am a feminist. You don't even need to say, I believe all people should be treated equal. Just slap the feminist tag on your Instagram and boom, you're a feminist. Great job.
Yeah, I don't think there's any actual argument.
There's no argument with that because what group do you need a qualification for? Those are all professions. Obviously, you need a job for that. This is a social group.
Yeah.
This is a movement. You don't need anything to support Black Lives Matter. You don't need a qualification to support the LGBTQ plus community.
Mm-hmm.
That holds no platform.
Yeah.
Post number 5. If someone walks up to me and asks, what is your opinion of feminism? I point right above their shoulder, scream bloody murder, and run away. I don't stop until I'm at least a quarter mile away. It's the perfect solution, winky face. Already, I don't like you. This person continued. I don't like how it believes that there are no differences between the sexes. According to science, there are. Even at 1 month of age, boys' and girls' brains show differences. 2. Assuming men and women's brains are different, they would indicate they have slightly different capabilities. Indeed, all my experience point to men and women having differences in behavior that isn't taught. Yet, feminists have decided that men and women need to earn 100% equally. 3. The wage gap myth is their main argument right now. It is how they get women to join the movement at an early age. 4. Since the feminist movement is a sham, it confuses a lot of people, both men and women, who now believe that everything needs to be equal, when in fact, such equality can't be achieved and isn't even something to desire. 5. What I support is a society where both men and women feel good. I just don't see that in the current feminism movement. It pushes for equality before everything else. There's so many contradictions in this.
Well, number 1, the first one about I don't like how feminism believes there are no differences between the sexes. There obviously are. There are biological differences at birth, but gender isn't something that's assigned.
Gender is not the same thing as sex.
Right. And so I'm like, Kate, so that pulls that argument out because that's not accurate. The same thing for the second one. Men and women's brains are different. But are they? I'm like,
I think this person is bringing up the physical differences between men and women.
Yeah.
And how there's only male and female.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, then any argument that you want to bring up that is like, you're going to find stuff wrong if that's what you believe.
Right.
But as feminists, we don't believe that because, like you said, gender and sex are different things.
Exactly.
So,
well, I don't like how this person said everything needs to be equal when in fact such equality can't be achieved. So this person is saying there are differences between men and women and they're never going to be equal. Literally said equality cannot be achieved and isn't even something to desire. So to me, that feels like I believe men are above women.
Yeah, that's very pro-patriarchy.
Definitely. Same with the last point. Like, I support a society where both men and women feel good. Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
It's like the first example. That's ideal. That's not the world we live in.
Right. But right now, if you want to use the term feel good, right now, in general, men feel better than women because, for example, men can go for a run outside in the dark and probably be fine versus women, we can't do that. So like, yeah, we're not.
Yeah, it's like the little things or like the guy that was talking about how funny he was making the jokes. Like most men are just going to be like, bro, that's not funny. But like us women are like, no, we need to be nice or else we're scared something's going to happen. Mm-hmm. That's kind of dramatic sometimes, but like seriously, right? Like at a bar or something, like you don't know.
Yeah.
It's those little things, just like different ways that we live our lives.
Yeah.
Post number 6. The most anti-feminist arguments, it's the 21st century. Do we really need feminism anymore? Downright hilarious. Yeah, sure. Say that to the women in Afghanistan who get acid chucked at their faces for remotely defying their culture. Say that to the women in Saudi Arabia. They are still fighting for their right to drive. Say this to the women in India where one gets raped every 30 minutes. Yes, we need feminism. For the record, we need it more than ever. Misogyny is far from over.
Slay.
That was the one that was written by our girly. I agree with all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I like how she brought a worldwide view. But I just think it's very interesting. Like, I'm not trying to say men can't be feminists. I'm not trying to say, like, men can't support equality for men and women and all genders. But it is interesting that all of the extreme radical views of not supporting feminism were by men.
Mm-hmm. I will say, just to hold her to the same standard, unless she, cited a source.
She did.
Oh,
she had a Time article about the point of women in India.
Okay, well then there we go. Because I was gonna say that to be fair, but then I was gonna say everything else we know is true. Like, look at women having to wear, all of the stuff she said. But no, I have no critique, no argument. I agree with her, and she cited her sources.
Yep.
So there's no argument.
APA 7th edition.
Perfect. No, I do agree with you though. It's not to say that men can't be feminists, because we have some male feminist listeners. Like, we have a good amount.
Again, like, you don't have to label yourself. No one has to label themselves as anything. But I just have a problem when people, for one, actually say that they're anti-feminist. I don't like that label.
Yeah.
But my point is, like, just because you don't want to identify as a feminist doesn't mean you can't support equality.
Right. And by trying to discredit the term feminism and just saying, oh, it's just egalitarianism or whatever the other one is, it's not the same. So, like, that isn't an argument. Just saying that we're labeling ourselves wrong, that's not an argument. And that's what a lot of people were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not valid.
Definitely. Well, it sure was interesting to read those and talk about them. I would be interested to do more episodes like this, just because I think it's really important to also talk about our opinions about certain issues, because we don't always, like, bring up specific things like that in our episodes. So let us know what you guys think, and if you have suggestions or, like, you have your own opinions that you want to share with us, reach out to us, let us know. And everything is in the show notes. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.